Welcome to the July 15th Planning Commission.
Look at that.
Let's go.
It's a radio voice, I've ever heard one.
There you are. Good morning. I want to call this meeting of the Planning Commission to order, and in accordance with Section 84-14-12 of the Nebraska Revised Statutes, a current copy of the Open Meetings Act is available for review and is posted on the wall of the council chambers. May I have a roll call, please?
Dart,
Here.
Malone,
Here.
Dakin,
Here.
Pandor,
Here.
Rickard,
Here.
Yaw,
Here.
McGinnis.
Here.
We have a quorum. You all have a copy of the minutes of the June 17th meeting. A motion in regards to those would be in order.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we approve agenda item number 3, the minutes of the meeting held June 17th, 2022, as provided.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion, additions, corrections? Malia?
Malone,
Aye.
Dakin,
Stain.
Pandor,
Aye.
Rickard,
Aye.
Yaw,
Aye.
McGinnis,
Aye.
Dart.
Aye. Motion passes. Before we get into the meeting, I'd like for the folks that are here to understand that we do have a agenda, and I think there are copies available in the hallway out there if you'd like to have one. We'd appreciate it that when your item comes up before us, if you would please step to the center podium and talk to us at that point. Try to stay there as much as you can. If you need some direction in pointing out things on the screen, staff will help you do so. And as we move along, we'll try to do it as efficiently as possible and appreciate your cooperation. The first item on the agenda that we have is street vacation number 2022-03, which is an application submitted by Trenton Snow for Avenue G storage to vacate a portion of the Avenue G a portion of Avenue G from 20th Street to 19th Street. And this property is along, it's between 20th and 19th Street. Not much more you can say to that. Good morning.
Good morning. For the record, Trenton Snow, Land Surveyor, office at 1309 Central Avenue here in Kearney. And I'm representing one of the abutting landowners, Mike Lewis with Avenue G Storage on this project. They're wishing to gain a little bit more ground along the street, of course, on both sides, since when we vacate, we usually do both sides to make it a 66. It's originally an 80-foot wide street, so what they're asking for is 7 foot on either side, which then narrows the road down to 66, something we've done quite a few different times in the city, since in this area, anyway, we don't usually use an 80-foot wide right-of-way. This does affect 4 different landowners. Mike, along with 3 other landowners along this. Other than that, there is a power line that is on the west side of the street that will be in the vacated right-of-way, so the city and the utility companies are retaining an easement over that vacated portion, so that will remain as a utility easement, that 7 foot on either side. Other than that, any questions you may have, I'd be happy to try and answer those.
And all of the owners associated with this have agreed to the expansion?
Yes, they've all signed off on the application.
Any questions for the applicant? Melissa?
The city's findings of fact are that the requested parcel street vacation is compliant with our Unified Land Development Ordinance, City Code Section 53-104, regarding vacations of portions of streets rights-of-way. The parcel vacation will provide additional land to each lot along Avenue G, and that the street vacation as requested is consistent with the 2016 comprehensive plan as referenced, and staff recommends approval of the street vacation as presented.
Any questions or comments?
I just have one question. In the packet of material that you provided, it's about the 3rd or 4th page where there's 2 pages, application for vacation of street. You've got about a dozen names and addresses on there. About half of them are signed, half aren't. Is there a reason why half aren't signed?
There's multiple pages that went to multiple homeowners, and so if you combined them all into one document, you would see that they'd all be signed.
Great, thank you.
Anything else? Does anyone else have anything to say in this regard? In that case, in regards to item number 4, which is street vacation 2022-03, the motion would be in order to, on that item.
Mr. Chair, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, based on the city's finding of fact, I move that we recommend street vacation number 2022-03.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any additional discussion? Roll call, please.
Dakin,
Aye.
Pandor,
Aye.
Rickard,
Aye.
Yaw,
Aye.
McGinnis.
Aye.
Dart,
Aye.
Malone.
Aye.
The motion passes. Thank you. The next item we have is a hearing. It's on for a conditional use permit, and the application submitted by Steve and Danielle Frank for a conditional use permit to operate a child care facility on property that is zoned District R2, urban residential mixed density, and described as Lot 9 of Fountain Hills 15th Edition. This property is located south of 52nd Street and west of 11th Avenue. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Macy Carpenter. I am employed at 3012 West 24th Street here in Kearney. I'm representing Steve and Danielle Frank in hopes to open a new daycare facility, child care facility in Kearney.
Are you familiar with the not the restrictions, but the provisions that have been set for the daycare? Hours of operation, need to have certification, et cetera, and so forth.
I am. I'm currently the director of Smiling Faces Academy South. We're located in the old Beco's building. But this new daycare would replace our north location here in town. We currently have 3 locations. The north facility is up by the Children's Museum, so that facility would close and then open in this new one.
Does anyone have any questions or comments for Macy? Melissa, do you have anything to add to this?
I do. Just a little more background. We did evaluate the daycare facility with the provided exhibits and the operational characteristics and found the minimum requirements of the CUP and site development regulations have been met through their application process. The proposed location of the facility along the collector and higher density residential development within the area is consistent to that development, and the request to extend hours of operation from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. are consistent with the needs for this type of operation, and it also provides flexibilities to families that are working multiple shifts and various shifts throughout the day. The daycare center layout accommodates off-street parking and provides access points along the property's north and east sides to facilitate traffic. And the landscaping and buffer yard screening requirements meet the minimum requirements of code. Our staff's finding of facts are a site plan has been provided, which indicates the ability to meet the site development regulations of the R2 zoning district. Landscaping and buffer yard screening are indicated, which meet the minimum requirements of the ULDO. Off-street parking is indicated, which meets the requirements of the daycare homes and daycare center supplemental regulations, section 46-104C of the ULDO. The request to extend hours of operation beyond those required in section 46-104A are reasonable and provide flexibilities to families needing child care services. And the daycare operation and development of the property are consistent with the 2016 comprehensive plan as referenced. Staff recommends approval of the conditional use permit to operate the daycare center with the following conditions. 1, a copy of the license to operate a daycare center from the Nebraska Department of Health and Human Services must be provided before the certificate of occupancy is issued for the building. The daycare center will provide off-street parking, which meets the minimum requirements of the ULDO per Chapter 49 Off-Street Parking, Section 49-103, Schedule of Off-Street Parking Requirements, Table 49.1, Minimum Off-Street Parking Requirements. And 3, the hours of operation will be between 5 a.m. and 8 p.m. And I can answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Melissa?
I was trying to look up the code. What, do we have outside, anything beyond the 5 a.m. and 8 p.m.?
The typical hours for daycare operations are from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., so they're requesting to extend their hours from 5 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Do we have others that you know of that are longer than that?
Not to my knowledge.
So if somebody works different shifts, how do they?
Phone a friend.
Okay.
I have a question. On the south part of the property, there's a fence and landscape buffer.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything planned to buffer on the west side of the property?
No, there's actually a drainage easement that runs along there, so there's no requirements for them to provide any buffer. They may provide additional fencing along that side, but that will be an operational characteristic that they may choose to do in the future.
And what is the property zone to the west currently?
I think it's part of the drainage system, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, that,
It's the
Oh, it
whole
is?
initial
Yeah,
part
that
of it is,
whole
yeah.
draw through
Oh.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
That's
there's got
right.
to be a natural buffer anyways.
Comes right up to the
So
back
the
door.
adjacent land on the west, which is the platted drainage outlot, is zoned R-2. It's the same zoning as the current
It's
property.
not required to have a buffer there. It's optional based upon the owner of the property. Okay, thank you.
Unless I made a mistake, looks to me like there's single-family housing being built on the north across 52nd Street. And I guess I was kind of surprised to see single-family there. Has there been any discussion with builders or realtors or,
We have not had any calls regarding that.
okay.
R2 zoning district allows for single-family duplex and multitude, so they have an option to have
Yeah,
flexibility with this
I was
housing
just
types of
surprised to
build.
see it there.
I want to ask about your traffic circulation, just so I'm clear on it. I noticed that the main entrance comes off of 11th and then passes along the north side of the building, and you get back onto 52nd Street. And so that circulation is basically from the bottom right to the top left. But then also, as I look at one of the drawings that I have here, and I think it's consistent, I see that the north driveway shows both in and out. And is there traffic that can go all the way around the building, or help me understand how that's going to circulate, if that is circulation, especially off of that north driveway?
I'm not quite sure how to completely answer your question. There should be another, well, this back turnaround area leads to the garage area in the back, but
So it does not go completely behind the building, it just simply comes and leads into that building?
correct.
Okay.
So yes, the only turnaround would be inside the parking lot or just exiting back onto the street.
So if someone enters on, from 52nd Street, they can essentially do a loop and go back out? Is that what you're saying?
I would assume, yes.
Okay.
How would that work?
Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out.
I don't see.
Well, yeah, because of the
Can you go around the
parking
building?
going.
They'd be coming in against traffic.
They can't go.
Ideally, the parking stalls look like they go one direction. I guess
Yeah,
it's a one-way in and one-way out is what it appears by the.
So you can come in here, park here, then turn out and go back out. So there's a parking area indicated here that could be used to turn around.
What if you came in and took a left against traffic? I mean, is there any signage there that, right there?
I'm sure there will be signage, and we even currently have like private parking signage, just specifying staff parking or parent parking, where to turn and how to turn. So I would assume there would be just,
Because people coming in from the north are probably going to be tempted to drive in against traffic,
yeah, and
drive down to 11th Avenue.
again, luckily, hopefully, it would be not regular, just traffic turning in. Hopefully, it would be parents, and they would know where to be turning in, how to be turning in. And again, staff and parents would have signage and specific parking.
And the reality is, you're not going to have that parking lot filled to capacity at any one time. It's mostly stop and go
Correct.
traffic.
Correct.
Except for staff.
Correct. And even currently, we have some pretty crazy turning onto the highway, even at my location, directly when you enter and exit the facility, right onto Highway 30.
And my experience in those situations is you do not allow anyone to not go to their regular spot.
Correct. Staff, yes, staff and parents both have different
Yeah, there's it's
parking.
habit forming, and if you're in my spot, look out.
Correct.
Anything else? Okay, I'm going to close the hearing in regards to the address is right there in front of me, 57, in regards to this conditional use permit.
As a point of order, I don't think we opened the public hearing.
Well, let's open it. Anyone else wish to be heard on this matter? I'll close the hearing and ask for a motion in regards to.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve item number 5, the conditional use permit for a daycare center, permit 2022-01.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded.
Do we need to
Based on
have
the
it with the
city's
following
finding of fact.
conditions, following 3 conditions?
Yeah, we need to get
Maybe.
those in the,
Yeah.
Was the motion seconded?
Yes.
it was.
Do you wish to add that, the second wish to add that?
Wish to add the conditions as stated in the memo, copy of the license, off-street parking as permitted, and the hours of operation 5 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Is that agreeable?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Thank you.
Agree.
Any additional discussion? Malia?
Sandor,
Aye.
Rickard,
Aye.
Yaw,
Aye.
McGinnis,
Aye.
Dart,
Aye.
Malone,
Aye.
Dakin.
Aye. The motion passes. Have
Thank
fun.
you.
The next item on our agenda is another conditional use permit. The application submitted by Miller and Associates for Old Town Enterprises for a conditional use permit for warehousing open on property zone district M1PD Limited Industrial Plan Development Overlay District. And that property is located approximately 1619 17th Avenue. This includes several parts: the north tract, part of Lot 3, Sun West 4th Edition, accepting, however, part of Lot 3, Sun West 4th Edition. It didn't make sense, did it? I'll let you make sense out of it. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Craig Vinnett from Miller & Associates at 1111 Central Avenue here, and I'm representing Old Town Enterprises. And with me in the audience today, I have Mike Lewis as the owner and president of Old Town Enterprises. And so the primary reason that we're here today is what we're proposing is shown on these 2 lots here, which the exception that that we're talking about is this little portion to the southeast corner where there was a minor lot split done. where the current residential owner chose or wanted a little portion more of their backyard, which he owned both lots at that time. And so that was kind of where the exception portion was taken out of. But today we're here to talk about these two lots. And the reason that we're here for a conditional use permit is because outdoor storage requires a conditional use permit. So if you have storage units and you have them contained within in most zones that allow that, then that would be it's acceptable here. I'll show you the phased approach where we're proposing for some outdoor storage in the first phase. So the current zoning is M1 PD. The PD was placed on these lots here, which there were 3 of them at that time, because of 17th Avenue having the public access, and so there's an ingress-egress easement. So in order to do that, we had to provide an ingress-egress easement, which required the PD. That's the little history of how we got to the M1. Otherwise, it would be just straight M1. So the original plat on SunWest 5th, that shows this 50-foot ingress-egress and utility easement here, which provides access to this lot, and then ultimately it provided access to this Lot 3 over here on SunWest 4th. So it's Lot 2 of SunWest 5th and Lot 3 with the exception of that portion of SunWest 4th. And so there's that portion where we done the minor lot split for this house when we took that portion out. So the proposed development plan that I have before you shows that the access will remain off of 17th Avenue here. The bold line that I have highlighted right here, and then in this location here, are the 2 locations where he proposes to put his outdoor storage portion of that particular lot. I've also highlighted 2 areas here where there will be future storage unit buildings in the interim of time, supply, and demand. Getting steel, things like that, those things don't come as quick as we want, and so we want to at least get the outdoor storage portion going while the building is being manufactured and then delivered. So there are a few other components to this particular lot. When Mr. Ron Grapes, who lived in this house, owned all of this here and developed this particular storage unit building, on-site detention is to be provided on this lot. And so this lot did not provide the stormwater on-site detention. It's all grass and alfalfa, and then he planted an abundance of trees out there all over the property. And so as a part of this particular development, Old Town Enterprises will be providing a detention cell in this location, which will account for the increased runoff for this area, as well as the runoff that'll come into here. The green shows a pipe that will account for that. There will also be a detention cell placed as originally designed on the plat along this south side, and then that'll provide stormwater detention for the open storage area as well. So those will be the 2 stormwater detention facilities that'll be constructed. In addition, very much similar to like what this building has, a public water main was extended and a fire hydrant had to be placed here to provide fire circulation and distances to cover the building here. This will have to be the same way. So this public water main, the 8-inch water main that was extended here, will be tapped, and a fire hydrant will be supplied here, which provides circulation for future buildings. So it doesn't have to be required for the outdoor storage, but at which point there becomes a building, then that will have to be installed. The surfacing will be rock or aggregate. The improvements are quite a distance off of the north boundary because of the existing trees that are up there, and Mr. Lewis has decided to retain those trees as its screening and buffer. In addition, shown in orange along the west will be the proposed screening fence that he's proposing here, either wood or vinyl along that side, and then the same thing along these exterior sides as well, as required to provide buffer yards for outdoor storage. Outside of that, that pretty much would encompass, again, for most people, they might think that this is actually 16th Avenue, but it's a private drive to this particular property, and so we have to provide that same screening along that side as well. This is kind of an enlargement of the north half where you can kind of see where the proposed fence, the detention cell, future hydrant there, proposed detention cell there, the screening. This would be the concrete, crushed concrete or aggregate surfacing for those two storage areas. And if I go to the southern half to blow it up or enlarge it as well, you can kind of see some of those same nodes, and the access will be similar to this particular hub right there. And so we're here today because of the requirement for outdoor storage requiring a conditional use permit for that portion of the lot.
To what degree is there going to be in and out traffic to this? Is that an unusual thing, or is it busy all day long?
I don't know that I can speak to that. Perhaps Mr. Lewis can, but it would be a storage unit facility. I would assume circulation would be very similar to what you see with the adjoining landowners to the west.
What's the height of the fence, the privacy fence?
We have 6 foot shown on this, yes.
And do you have any idea what types of items could be stored outside in that area?
I would assume that, Mr. Lewis, I don't know if you have clients that you already have, but I would assume like campers, trailers, boats.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be strictly RV or boat outdoor storage, so we wouldn't allow, construction, equipment, junk, those sorts of things, so.
Great.
And we'll have, lighting that's contained to the property. We'll have controlled access. We'll have online check-in, that kind of stuff, so, yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Just as a matter of course, could you give us your name and address, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Mike Lewis, 4319 Glenwood Road.
Thank you.
Yes.
So with the current stormwater runoff now runs onto that property, and then putting those cells in, that'll be overflow coming off those in the green, and then is that going to an existing storm sewer structure, or where is that?
Yep. So currently right now, there's a detention cell that was created with this particular development by which stormwater pipe kind of shown, let me just zoom in here. Stormwater pipe goes here and it ties into the existing city stormwater pipe system that's sitting right here. And so what we're doing is tapping that same location as well. To answer your question on the current runoff or drainage, when this was developed, it's very flat, so there's really primarily little to no runoff, but there is some rooftop shedding that happens in this direction that we definitely have to account for. The whole site, regardless of what little does probably get to us. But it will be contained in this detention cell, restricted, then released at a slower rate, detained in this detention cell, restricted and released, and then tie into that storm sewer.
Any more questions for Mr. Bennett? Melissa?
Staff's findings of fact regarding this conditional use permit for warehousing open is a site plan has been provided indicating the ability of the proposed CUP operation to meet the site development regulations of the M1 zoning district, landscaping and buffer yard screening with a tree line remaining, and installation of an opaque fence meet the standards of the ULDO. The developer is proposing to meet all intentions of the M1 zoning district and requesting no deviations. Therefore, no PD plan is required for the development. The proposed development is consistent with the development in the area and is consistent with 2016 comprehensive plan as referenced. Staff recommends approval of the conditional use permit for warehousing open with the following condition. 1, landscaping and screening shall be required as indicated on the site plan. A, the tree line along the north side of the property shall remain or be replaced with a form of opaque screening if ever necessary in the future. And B, opaque fencing must be installed along the east, south, and west sides before the site is operational. And I can answer any questions.
So if this was all common ownership to the west, would we still require the west fence? screening?
It is not common
No,
ownership.
no, if it
Correct.
was. It's more of a-
We would, because this is outdoor storage, and per our landscaping and screening requirements, outdoor storage requires screening.
Okay.
And a conditional use permit in this case does not have any end point. It's simply granted as is. And how could the conditional use permit be removed from that property? By change in ownership or change in use, or how would that happen?
Both of those options, the change in ownership, if the property is ever sold, they'd have to come back before the planning commission if they wanted to continue to operate it in the same manner. If they're changing the use of the property, that would, or if we get complaints that are unresolved, the city does have the ability to revoke the conditional use permit as well.
Okay, thank you.
The entire property will be gravel, rock, some material. When he builds the buildings, does he have to put some concrete ramps or something up to those buildings or not?
That will be his option in the M1 zoning district. We don't require paving with our enclosed storage units.
And I was, I guess, initially concerned regarding the runoff from the lots, if it's going to be all gravel, but as long as we've got the detention features there, any gravel that's going to come in is going to fill that up before it gets into the city system, so that's at least protected. This is a hearing. Is there anyone else who wishes to be heard on this matter? If not, I'm going to close the hearing and ask for a motion in regards to conditional use permit number 2022-02.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we approve agenda item number 6, conditional use permit number 2022-02, based upon staff's finding of fact and including the two conditions that are actually one condition, landscaping and screening shall be required as indicated on the site plan A and B.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any additional discussion? Malia?
Rickard.
Aye.
Yaw.
Aye.
McGinnis.
Aye.
Dart.
Aye.
Malone.
Aye.
Dakin.
Aye.
Pandor.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next several items, items number 7 through 12, all generally apply to a significant patch of ground in southeast South Kearney. It is in regards to subdivision vacations as well as rezoning and then establishment of a preliminary and final plat. To read the legal description of all of this would get us into lunch. But it is basically Talmadge Street from the east section where, I'm going to have to say it, the DX pit is located.
That's your old.
West almost all the way to Yanni Avenue, bounded on the south by the interstate and the north on Talmadge Avenue. A pretty big chunk of ground. So as we move through it, we'll discuss it as a whole and then act on individual items as we go through. And let you start out for us, and please don't go away because you're going to have to guide us a little bit later.
All right, very good. My name is Craig Bennett, 1111 Central Avenue, and I'm representing this morning Talmadge Jam, LLC, MJ Developments, and Paul Eunice. And in the audience today, I have Paul with me as well. And so the property, as you described there, that we have before you today is a large piece of ground. It's 92.55 acres that we're platting here. And the few reasons of why it's coming before you is, number one, there's a sports complex, which you guys are aware of, that would be a part of this particular parcel. Talmadge Street, as we see it here from Yanni Avenue to 10th Avenue, is currently under construction with water and sewer primarily constructed in the ground, and that has been placed in a right-of-way easement. And so that's a right-of-way and utility easement is how that got the ability to start construction. And so what we're doing is it's a right-of-way utility easement all the way from Yanny to 10th, and we are encapsulating this portion and dedicating that portion of it as actual right-of-way as part of the plat. The remaining portion will still be a right-of-way easement, which still makes it accessible for public right-of-way and utilities. So that's how that construction was able to start without the platting process, which we've done very similar, like extending Country Club Lane or 11th Avenue or things like that that have been outside of city limits and plats. So the area that we have here borders the south, which is I-80, and then it will encompass all of Talmadge. So I'll just kind of walk through that. The current corporate limits kind of bisects the property here, so there's an annexation portion that we have. The zoning for the primary portion of it is C2, and it has a PD over it. When we platted this last phase here of Eunice development here, there was a portion of it that we took out of it, had a minor subdivision, kind of like the one I had previously. So there's a part of that particular lot that we're vacating and bringing back, and there's also another lot here. But the primary zoning that we're looking at here is C2PD, and we're asking to rezone that to C3, which allows for the uses that will go in, which I'll kind of describe the lots here, and then of course the sports complex and everything that buffers up against I-80. So it's ability and time that we can utilize to convert from the C2 to the C3 at this point in time. The future land use map, the FLU shows this as COM, which is compatible with the C3, so there would be no reason to amend the future land use map with this rezoning. So the rezoning that we're looking at is for the entire parcel that we're proposing today, which is the 92.55 acres that we have there. As a part of that, we're going to be vacating two already platted portions of previous subdivisions, one being Lot 1, Block 2, Interstate 3rd, which is in the very southeast corner of this subdivision. It currently has, it's terminated right now by pavement, but there was a temporary cul-de-sac that was a part of that plat. So we're vacating this lot, and then just west of it, that lot was right there. Just west of it is this portion of what most might call like the lake lot that we had, and that was Lot 6. It did extend up into here. This had a minor subdivision where there's an MOB or medical office building located on it right now, and so that's why that minor sub was. So we're vacating this portion or part of Lot 6 and this lot. So there's two vacations that you really see there. From a 200-foot radius map, as I start to walk through this, the bold black line represents that. The 200-foot at this scale and this size doesn't look like it's much off of the property, really, because it's such a large parcel. But primarily it encompasses I-80 right-of-way. It encompasses more of currently owned ground all around it. So everything that is encompassed within the 200-foot radius is of the similar ownership. From a flood insurance rate map standpoint here, I've shown in red that same 92 acres there. What's shown in the blue is the 1% chance of annual flood, or what people used to know as a 100-year floodplain. The dark gray here is the 0.2% chance, or what people would sometimes refer to as the 500-year floodplain. So very similar to what we see out here. Actually, as you look at some of this area here, it would be higher in elevation as the flood channel would go through here. But again, very similar to what we see. It's within the floodplain, and as what we've done with previous developments, we've raised it above the floodplain through that area. As a requirement, I'll break this down just a little bit, but this is an overall view. First is the preliminary plat showing the contours, drainage, utilities. There's currently a MPPD transmission main that goes through. There's a 100-foot utility easement that bisects this. We've worked through this on the previous plats, and we're doing the same thing as well, aligning that with current right-of-way and lot lines. So as I kind of zoom into two halves of it, I've kind of just for visual purposes kind of broke it up into a west half and east half for today's presentation. The west half, primarily this is the edge of the lake lot, which is this dashed line right here. When we looked at these lots that would exist on either side of 11th Street, Mr. Eunice would like to come closer to the water's edge, very similar to what has happened, like, say, with Cunningham's and some of those others. And in order to do that, we've extended that out, and that's another reason why we grabbed that Lot 6, which is that great big lot, to bring it into this subdivision as well, so that these lots could border up next to the edge of the water there. So there's lots that come along here. We have a stormwater easement that'll go through here. This is that overhead electrical easement. There's a power pole like about right here, and one here, and then out here. And so the lots will be able to coexist just like they do in the parking lots. We can have parking lots, we just can't have buildings underneath them. We've opened up these areas, what would be known as 15th Avenue and what would be known as 11th Avenue, to provide traffic calming devices known as roundabouts, is what the city is proposing on Talmadge Street in these locations here. So the current Talmadge Street project, where water and sewer are already in the ground, are being amended to accommodate the roundabouts, which is why the shapes of the right-of-way that you see in these two locations are displayed like that. This, what's shown as Lot 3, Block 3, this would be the sports complex lot, which consists of, as shown here, about 29 acres, part of which we have 15th Avenue extending down to the south. Terminating into this lot is 2nd Street right-of-way, and primarily because it'll be parking lot and it'll have circulation. It'll probably, in theory, look like a street, for the most part, in terms of the way people access it. And the same thing with what we're showing as 1st Street terminates into this lot as well, which gives future planning should the south side of this be developed, as they're looking at this whole complex here and provide circulation. That kind of circulation could come across there in any way or direction that's needed. Building setbacks are shown there. We also have additional utility easements, storm easements there, easements along the right-of-way. There's an existing gas line. Northwestern Gas has all the way along the north side of the interstate right-of-way. As I jump to the east half, you can see 1st Street extends and connects, and it will tie into 3rd Avenue. So now if I'm on Talmadge and I come down 3rd Avenue and I go to this corridor here, the right-of-way is being dedicated at this time for future street improvements. So as we're grabbing this lot to add to these lots here, we're also dedicating and defining where this future road and circulation point will be, which will be really nice to provide a looped circulation around this entire complex. And so from a vehicular standpoint, it'll provide a lot more secondary access and circulation. As another component, I know you guys have a few things that you'll be making motions on. I've talked about the 2 vacations, primarily in the rezoning, the preliminary plat. This will be a final plat, which in this particular case is the same exact boundary as the rezoning and preliminary plat, the 92.55 acres. It does consist of these lots here. So again, separated by 1st Street, we're retaining a lot over here right now, but because of the way we redefined 1st tying into 3rd, that's why we grabbed that lot and had to clean that up and vacate it as well. As you looked in your packets, just due to meeting the scale and size requirements for recording purposes at 1:100, there are several sheets, and I'm just kind of walking through those here, but these are actual sheet sets from the plat to be recorded, which would be a part of the final plat. We also had to create an infrastructure feasibility plan, which is how are we going to serve utilities, not only with what's happening currently on Talmadge, and this is where you can start to see some of the paving improvements that are being shown there. So we have to show the proposed improvements for the entire plat as we have. So I'll kind of zoom into this as I've kind of broke it into those same two halves here. So Talmadge Street already has water and sewer placed in the ground right now. These show the paving improvements with the roundabouts that we have here at 15th, a roundabout at 11th, which gives us opportunities for extensions and further circulation going north out of that at different phases. We show a water line, which we're currently a 16-inch water line. This project has been a part of the city's SRF, or State Resolving Fund project, for many years, where we want to provide secondary circulation to what we would call the hockey arena area. Right now that's a dead end, if we want to call that. The water comes through what would be the old Grandpa Steakhouse in that area and goes over to the arena. And this now gives us the opportunity to go across the interstate and to make that connection, so we have a loop, which we've not had. So this is a really nice opportunity to do that as well. So currently right now utilities are stubbed out right there, and we'll be extending water there. The red is the sanitary sewer, which we came across the Turkey Creek Channel, or North Channel of the Platte River, several years ago to serve this area, and now this is another extension of what we did with that master planning to be able to extend sanitary sewer, which can then serve lots and developments along the south side of the lake as well as on either side of 11th. The green is what shows stormwater conveyance infrastructure. So this particular development for the sports complex will have on-site detention. Primarily drainage it's very flat, but it does drain primarily from west to east across this property. And so you can see by these contours, you'll see a lot of pockets out here, which shows all the inundation areas here that shows it's flat terrain, but primary drainage is from west to east. So a detention cell, series of detention cells will be placed along the east side of this sports complex. And so we've showed infrastructure, green infrastructure, which would be the conveyance system, which will be the detained water to be able to get conveyed and then dropped into this lake, which then ultimately makes its way to Turkey Creek. Same thing in the southeast corner, which then comes here and then goes back into the stormwater detention cell and lake, or as Stan called it, the DX pits from the days gone by. And so there's also stormwater inlets that would be placed on 11th. The Talmadge Street infrastructure you'll see by these easements here already has means by which this stormwater drainage goes north into the channel and flow that goes east and goes back out to Turkey Creek. So this drainage for this street goes north, but everything that gets developed south of Talmadge will go through detention, ultimately end up this, and then go north. On the eastern portion of this particular subdivision for an infrastructure feasibility plan, we're continuing sewer, obviously, and then we're continuing what's shown in blue, which this also will be very nice because right now water comes down. We do have a loop internally here, which kind of goes down through the parking lot on the east side of Cunningham's, west side of the Fairfield, and comes back here. But now we'll be able to provide looping and redundancy as well here. This area here has the potential, right now it's one big lot, but has the potential for development of things that could also back up to this lake as well as this lot too. So that's why this infrastructure is shown on First Street here. And lastly, as a part of this here, this part is where the lot 6 was of the Unicenter Fifth. And so this is the 52 acres of the 92 acres that is not currently a part of the city limits that we are asking to annex into the city limits. So that kind of sits like this when you look at it from a big picture. I know it's a lot of information, a lot of different moving parts there. Obviously, a few goals was to get Talmadge Street and that circulation through there, and secondarily, with some projects that have came through, this is a great opportunity to do some master planning, and Mr. Eunice and his family and team have worked very diligently alongside of of the city and everyone to come up with a plan that allows for circulation, utility extensions, which I've expressed to you guys, but also taking a greater look at master planning this particular corridor. And so it'll be a nice amenity to what's already a nice campus in this part of our community.
The lots that you're developing, what have we got there? 5, 6, 8, 9 lots?
Let me go back to something that shows like these lots here, you mean?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yep.
What do you anticipate those would be? Commercial, residential?
Commercial, yep. They'll be commercial.
And as we look west from this, any property to the west of the whole project, does it have access to sewer?
Yeah, I'm going to zoom out to.
There you go.
So like here's our boundary as you're referring to this here.
Right.
So yes, as we've built Talmadge, we have already installed sanitary sewer all the way along Talmadge already. So that's currently in the ground right now with what happened over the last year.
Is that probably as far west as you can get the sewage?
Actually, when we brought the sanitary sewer across, which came right across the creek here, and we brought it through down to 10th, it's 15-inch sanitary sewer, and if needed, it could go to 30th.
But that development there largely is large lot residential.
Yeah, and from a preliminary plat, when we done Turkey Creek, this orange line that you see right here, we done a preliminary plat with residential lots that we had on between Yanni and this orange line here. So there's not been a preliminary plat on the rest. It's all still zoned ag, but we do have a preliminary plat for what includes from Yanni's south border to the state pond right here. So this has all been at least preliminary platted as residential at this time of record.
Craig, on the right north of the where it says I-80 there in black, there's a house right there on the
There's
GIS
2 homes,
indicates that Eunice does not own that. Is that going to affect them at all, or has that now been purchased, not updated?
It is owned by Eunice, yep.
Okay.
Yep. So, and they'll be removed. Yep.
This is more of an observation as a recommendation, but on a Friday or a Saturday night, if you try to travel Talmadge, the parking on both sides of Talmadge creates a lot of stress. It narrows that road down quite a bit.
Paul's like, my vehicle's out there. I know that.
Yeah, and so I'm wondering, I'm hopeful that the width of Talmadge as it extends west will get about 4 or 5 feet wider on both sides of the street. Came through there a couple of weeks ago, and there was a semi going west on Talmadge. We got behind him, and eventually he turned north and then back east again when he got past where he could park his semi on the north side of the restaurants down there. Well, getting that semi through there on a Friday night so he could get a burger was just chaos. And just suggesting a couple feet either way makes a difference on that. Yeah, I think that. Well, if you want to just move one motel a little bit farther north, you can solve that.
Yeah, parking requirements will look a lot different for on-street parking. This will be, it's been proposed that this will not allow on-street parking on Talmadge on west of 10th Avenue there.
Nice touch.
Regarding the 9 lots that are, for commercial development, though, what is the intent for parking for those?
Those have to be on site. They'll have to meet the off-street parking requirements that you have. Yep. Which is what happens with all of this campus. The people that choose to do the on-street parking, we don't get a count for that in any of the parking credits, and so there won't be that allowed here or here most likely. I can't say specifically about 11th, but the development plans still have to account for all of your requirements for off-street parking.
Any other questions for Mr. Bennett? We may not have opened this hearing, but at least we'll say this is a hearing.
It's open now.
Melissa, would you like to comment?
Yes, city staff's findings of facts for the proposed rezoning is consistent with the existing zoning of the adjacent lots and compatible with the existing future land use designation and purpose. The lots are compliant with the zoning district site development regulation. This subdivision layout is compatible with the surrounding land uses. The annexation is consistent with the city's annexation policy, and the development is consistent with the 2016 comprehensive plan as referenced. Staff recommends approval of the annexation, subdivision vacations, rezoning, preliminary plat, and final plat, all as presented, and I can answer any questions as well.
Any questions from Melissa? This is a hearing. Is there anyone else who wishes to be heard on this matter? Any additional discussion? Okay, I'm going to start at the top of the order here. The first item for us to consider is, excuse me, item number 7 is an annexation 2022-07 for the annexation of a tract of land being part of Government Lot 7, part of Government Lot 8, Lot 8, Section 11, etc. This is part of the proposed Unis Center 7th Edition between Talmadge Street and I-80 and between 2nd Avenue and 15th Street, as has been provided for us by the applicant. Is there a motion in regards to this?
This is Agenda 7, Item 7.
Item number 7. I don't know, Craig, do you want to outline it and specifically show that to us as we move through, if you would, please?
Sure, yep.
It's the annexation.
Okay. And the item that we have right now is rezoning?
The
Annexation.
annexation.
Sorry, I just went past it. Doggone it. I should have started I was always thinking of annexation at the end. So this is the annexation area, and more particularly as it relates to this red area. So this is the annexation portion of the motion.
Thank you very much. Don't go away.
Yep, I won't.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion that, based on staff's finding of fact, that we approve Agenda Item number 7, Annexation number 2022-07.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Malia?
Yaw.
Aye.
McGinnis.
Aye.
Dart.
Aye.
Malone.
Aye.
Dakin.
Aye.
Pandor.
Aye.
Rickard.
Aye.
The motion passes. The next item is a partial subdivision vacation number 1996-010, and this is the application to vacate Lot 1, Block 2, and the dedicated temporary cul-de-sac of Interstate 3rd Edition, that property located in the vicinity of 910 Talmadge Street. And this is that particular
This is
property.
that particular vacation.
Right.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, I would move.
As
I'm
a
sorry.
point of order, both partial subdivisions can be voted on in one motion. If you would like to vote on both of those together, that is an option.
We will do that if you, all right with you.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we approve Agenda Items number 8 and 9, Partial Subdivision Vacation number 1996-10, and Partial Subdivision Vacation number 2016-12.
Second.
Thank you. Any additional discussion? Malia?
McGinnis.
Aye.
Dart.
Aye.
Malone.
Aye.
Dakin.
Aye.
Pandor.
Aye.
Rickard.
Aye.
Yaw.
Aye.
That motion carries. Excuse me. The next item is, item number 10, is a rezoning 2022-09. And it's an application to rezone from District AG, Agricultural District, and District C2 PD, Community Commercial Planned Overlay District, to District C3, General Commercial District. And this is for the property that we've been discussing between Talmadge Street and I-80 and between 2nd Avenue and 15th Avenue, and also as has been identified here on the map. Is there a motion in regards to that? I'm going to close the hearing. I'll get there. And ask for a motion in regards to.
Mr. Chairman, based on staff's finding of fact, I would move that we approve agenda item number 10, rezoning number 2022-09.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion, comment? Malia?
Dart,
Aye.
Malone, Dakin,
Aye.
Pandorf,
Aye.
Rickard,
Aye.
Yaw,
Aye.
McGinnis.
Aye.
The motion carries. The next item is a hearing on a preliminary plat, number 2022-07. The preliminary plat is for Eunice Center 7th Edition. The property, as we've been discussing, is on Talmadge Street and 80 between 2nd Avenue and 15th Avenue. Motion in regards to that preliminary plat would be in order.
We have to close the
We're
hearing
going
on
to
each of
close
these.
the
Well,
hearing.
yeah, since you said we'll begin the hearings.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I would, based upon staff's finding of fact, move that we approve agenda item number 11, preliminary plat number 2022-07, final action.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any additional discussion? Malia?
Malone,
Aye.
Dakin,
Aye.
Pandorf,
Aye.
Rickard,
Aye.
Yaw,
Aye.
McGinnis,
Aye.
Dart.
Aye. That motion passes. The last item is a hearing on the final plat for this property, the final plat for Eunice Center 7th Edition. As we have been discussing, it's between Talmadge Street and I-80 and between 2nd Avenue and 15th Avenue. Is there any additional discussion in regards to that item? If not, I'll close the hearing and ask for a motion on item number 12.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we approve agenda item number 12 based upon staff's finding of fact, final plat number 2022-07.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any additional discussion? Malia?
Dakin,
Aye.
Pandorf,
Aye.
Rickard,
Aye.
Yaw,
Aye.
McGinnis,
Aye.
Dart,
Aye.
Malone.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, thank you guys very much.
Thank you very much.
you.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is number 13, rezoning 2022. It's an application submitted by the city of Kearney to rezone from District M1 Limited Industrial District to District BP Business Park District for property that lies east of Cherry Avenue, west of Airport Road, and north of 45th Street, and approximately 1,200 feet south of East 56th Street. Good morning.
Morning. My name is Melissa Doherty O'Hara. I'm the city planner for the city of Kearney, 18 East 22nd Street, Kearney, Nebraska. The city is bringing forth a request to rezone property that we own west of Cherry Avenue and south of East 56th Street, south of the ballparks, Patriot Boulevard, and then just north of East 45th Street. Currently, the property is zoned M-1, and we'd like to request to rezone the property to BP Business Park. The future land use of the existing property is PROS and MU3. PROS is Parks, Recreation, and Open Space, and then the MU3 Commercial Mixed Use District. The BP zoning classification is compatible with the MU3 and PROS FLU designations, so no future land use map amendment is requested with this zoning request. As you look at the area to the north, there's the HDR, High Density Residential, which is for the veterans home that we have there. Then you have Patriot Ball Fields, our airport, regional airport, with a lot of affiliated businesses to the east. And then to the south, we have a variety of commercial industrial businesses. And then to the west, we have Butler Ag and then vacant fields. And then as you head further west, you've got Tech One. Here's the zoning map for the area. It's BP all to the north. To the east for the airport and some of those affiliated businesses there, we have the M1 zoning. Then to the south, we'll continue to have the M1 zoning for a majority of the existing businesses there. Butler Ag, when that came through, we rezoned to BP, as well as Patriot Park and the Veterans Home was all BP. So As to be consistent with some of the development that we are seeing in this area, we request, so we don't have split zoning on our lot, that we rezone that to BP. Then we have the commercial developments that have happened down here in Patriot Industrial Park, which is city-owned property. When we put together those purchase agreements, all of those so far have included all the site development regulations for the BP zoning district. So to kind of just make it easier when we're doing some of our contracts and agreements, it's upfront. There's nothing that we have to go through with the developers. They just know that they're going to have to develop to BP standards. We went through, you as a planning commission, city council approved changes to increase some of the standards for the BP zoning district, how we want that look and feel along this corridor. So we felt that it was appropriate at this time, before we sold the remaining portions of that industrial park, to go ahead and rezone it to BP zoning. And there's the plat. And I can answer any questions you may have.
I understand why we would want to make that BP, and I don't have a problem with that. I'm wondering, though, as we take away M1 from the inventory of land out east of Kearney, do we still have enough M1 to accommodate potential? I mean, if we get somebody come in with a big industry, we're going to need M1.
We do have enough M1. We, along that Kearney East Expressway corridor, there are many opportunities to have an M1. Even along East Highway 30, the farther west you go, there is the option to rezone properties of that nature to M1. We would probably reserve that M1 zoning classification to in and around what we have adjacent to the existing Highway 30. If you remember last year, Prairie View Business Park came through and we rezoned that to M1. So we have the option to annex more land in to accommodate should a development come through that we need to. And we would evaluate that development at the time to make sure that it wouldn't fit into the BP zoning district versus the M1, because BP is quite flexible for a lot of developments that we are seeing come through.
Okay.
What types of developments are you seeing coming through in that area?
Just the perspectives that we get asked what can go in there from time to time. Just general commercial and industrial requests.
So it's not like you know something we don't know.
Correct.
Thank you.
By moving that to the BP, then we're able to regulate or control the look of that on the corridor.
Yeah, the city has invested a lot. If this map isn't updated, but we've extended this street all the way down to Mead Industrial Park. So since this is potentially a lot of area that we're going to have visitors come into our community from neighboring communities or out of state even, we want to make sure that we keep this look and feel with the landscaping requirements, the setbacks of the building, to accommodate whatever potentially could go out here as well, or future development that we see. So, yeah.
And perhaps a hotel, if it's in BD or BP.
I believe that is a use that can go in there. I'd have to triple check that, but I believe so.
The roads that are gravel in that particular area, will they ever be paved over?
I cannot answer that question at this time.
Any additional questions, comments, concerns? I think we opened that as a hearing some time back. So I'm gonna,
Nope, that's okay. Would you like me to provide my findings of fact?
please do.
Okay. The proposed rezoning is compatible with existing flu designation and purposes. The proposed rezoning is consistent with surrounding zoning and the existing development patterns within this area. And the proposed rezoning is consistent with the 2016 comprehensive plan policies as referenced. And staff recommends the approval of the rezoning as presented.
Any additional questions, comments, or concerns? Okay, I'm going to close the hearing and ask for a motion on rezoning number 2022-10.
I'm going to give somebody else the opportunity to make the motion. I hope.
Mr. Chairman, based on the city's finding of fact, I move that we approve item number 13, rezoning application 2022-10.
Second.
Is there any additional discussion? Malia?
Pandor,
Aye.
Rickard,
Aye.
Yaw,
Aye.
McGinnis,
Aye.
Dart,
Aye.
Malone,
Aye.
Dakin.
Aye.
Motion carries. Good. Next item is a hearing on the Code Amendment 2022-04 for the proposed amendment of Section 20-102, Site Development Regulations of Chapter 20, District R2 Urban Residential Mixed Density District. This is proposed by the city. And the hearing is open.
Fantastic. I will present the next three items together, items 14, 15, and 16. It's really just about consistency in our code. Staff, we continually review our code to ensure that it's meeting the new trends or standards. A lot of times it's just cleaning it up for simplification of developers to be able to intuitively read our code and start making decisions for their future developments without having to call us. I love it if anybody wants to call and ask questions, but that development process sometimes happen quite quickly and they're needing a quick reference. So we want our code to be as simple and clear as possible that people can be making and using that code that anybody could just read it. And then just how we're applying the code in general, we want to make sure that it's consistent across various zoning districts at this time. When you look at our current code, the R3 and R4 doesn't have any supplemental notes for townhouses or multifamily developments. So we thought it was really important that we're going in and evaluating these zoning districts, that we make sure that they're consistent across the board. One of the things that I had noticed when I first got here was that some of our site development regulators weren't meeting the intentions of the zoning district's density. So even if you could go to that lot size, it wouldn't necessarily be able to reach the density in which you wanted to do it in that zoning district. So we went in and did some of those cleanups, which resulted in making some proposed changes. And then again, as I said, we went in and revised some of our subsequent housing notes for development. These are the 7 areas that we went in and kind of looked over and updated. The first one was being the minimum areas for lot sizes, housing units, and lot widths. And again, like I said, we just went in to revise those to make sure that developments that wanted to develop with those zoning districts could use our site development regulators to meet the intended densities that they wanted to meet with that development. As we went in and adjusted the lot size and the housing unit area size, we respectively went in and changed the lot widths for some of the larger development sizes. The next area we went into was the townhouse developments. We provided some clarifications in how we're calculating the site area per housing unit and then the resulting lot minimum size required, which is dictated by the number of units within the townhome. And then we went ahead and updated the supplemental notes, which were hard to interpret or lacked critical information regarding some of those townhouse developments, and updated that for the R3 and R4 because we didn't have that. So we were having to use R2 code and an R3 zoning district, and it wasn't very kosher for me. So wanted to fix that to make it clear of what the standards for each zoning district needed to meet. The next thing we evaluated was our planned development districts. Currently in the code, it reads that only we allow for flexible yard setbacks. However, when we have developments come through, they're often approved for including lot size reductions or lot width reductions, and sometimes even the height restrictions. So this new language that we propose actually says plan, develop district notes, which gives them flexibility to request through the PD process any deviations in the site development regulators. Of course, those can't be made without your approval and ultimately City Council's approval. Another thing that we had throughout various portions under the notes was references to common areas or common spaces. So we revised Note 4, which was typically reserved for further regulations about duplexes, to just read information about common areas or common open spaces. It's clear who's responsible, they need to be platted, things of that nature are now easily accessible. We don't have to go in and further explain that or negotiate that with developers. We also just went in and cleaned up the minor subdivisions for residential developments. In the current code, it only read for duplexes, so it could have been interpreted that we only allowed it for duplexes. That's not the case. If a townhome met the minimum subdivision regulations, it could then be subdivided through that process. And then we just referenced how we were doing those minor subdivisions was using the single family attached minimum lot size and minimum housing unit size that those needed to meet. So those are just the clarifications. Then the last major update we did was to multifamily developments in the R3 and R4 district where those are currently allowed. We proposed changes to the lot sizes and site area per housing were presented. So we needed to clarify the minimum lot size area. If you look at the chart, it no longer provides one because that'll be dictated by the number of units within the housing development and based on their site area per housing unit. So that's one of the major changes. And then just so it has a similar look and feel across the zoning districts, we went ahead and put in some other regulators that we would feel that we'd want to see within the R3 and R4 for those developments. And then just general updates, I always add that as a category. We find an S randomly here or there, or we need to move a comma, or clarify where it says square feet that's consistent across the table, and then fix the note references as well. And those were included in those amendments. Then I can go ahead and answer any questions if you'd like to go through the attached amendments proposed.
So in a townhouse, R3 townhouse, I have a minimum of 3,000 or 1,500 per townhouse.
Mm-hmm.
Which one?
Depends if you're doing a PD.
Oh, conventional.
For an R3, it's 2,500 3,000 square feet per unit.
So down in the note 1 where it says no more than 6.
Correct. You can have a maximum of 6 units in the R3 zoning district in one building.
In one building.
Excuse me, you're not done.
Now, so I'm confused when it says in conventional development 9,000 square feet, but I can have 6.
The minimum, so you don't have to have 6.
Right, but if I have 6, how many square feet does my lot have to be?
6 times 3, 18,000 square feet is your minimum lot size. But your minimum, so say you decide to have, in the R3 zoning district, 3 units in one townhouse, 6 units, and then 3 units. So the minimum lot size you would need in a conventional development is 9,000 square feet because the minimum amount of units you have in a townhome is 3. That's how we determine that minimum lot size.
Okay.
It seems to me like what this does, and maybe this is a consistency issue, but what this does is increase the potential density in all 3 of the zoning districts. Am I incorrect in that? Or?
It feels that way, but it actually reflects the densities that we already have under the purpose statement.
Okay.
So our regulators just now match what we have within our purpose statement. So if your development was to come in, it still has to meet the 12 to 18 units per acre. So these regulators just give better guidance on how to meet those intentions.
So there's no change in density.
Correct.
I would point out, and we talked about this, that this is good for R2, R3, and R4. And then in the notes section accompanying each of those, you might want to refer in this case to note number 3, which deals with planned development districts. And item number 2 in note number 3 is the same for all of these. But it basically says the setback from the front facade of a garage or any public or private street right-of-way or access easement, including the boundary of sidewalks, must be at least, it was, but now it's a minimum of 20 feet. And what that says is that if you're going to do that, you're going to build, well, you have to be a minimum of 20 feet back from, I guess, the sidewalk to put in a garage. And this is for the planned district areas. For the unplanned, it's 25 feet back for the front of the garage. But in the planned portion, it's 20 feet. And I would invite you at your convenience to go on West 8th Street from probably, I suppose, 5th to about 11th, where there are a whole series of duplexes built. They're pretty much cookie cutter. They all look alike. And to look at the parking problem that you have, they are all duplexes. Now, I'm not concerned with R3 and R4 because if you're going to do an R3 or R4, you're going to have a larger building dedicated to a larger, denser population. But for duplexes, you're moving these things 5 feet closer to the front as opposed to what would have been normal development. And right now, in the duplexes in that area, you'll find that probably as many as 4 cars per unit, 3 at a minimum. You can't assume that just because you got a garage, you put a car in it. In many cases, it's your storage unit. And as I learned this last weekend, you can park over the sidewalk with your 3 pickups or your 2 pickups or some pickups that are big enough to cover that whole thing. I'm just basically saying that we're not taking into account the number of cars and where they would be placed on a lot. And if anything, the access to the garage should be away from the front of the house, perhaps from the front line of the house, that first garage can be no closer to the street than 5 feet back or more than that from the front of the house. It's a very small issue, but take a drive down those streets and you'll see how many cars are in the street. And I don't know how that affects trash pickup. I don't know how that affects emergency contact. I know if you're a college kid and you got 5 of your best friends living in a duplex, you're living high on the hog, and you got 10 cars in the street, just to exaggerate my point, nonetheless.
I will note that that's a housing option that a developer could choose to do, is to place the garage in front of the home. This requirement gives flexibilities for developers that should they want to request a 10-foot front yard setback for their building, they could place the front of the building 10 feet from the property line, but the garage would have to be that minimum 20 feet. So PDs, of course, come through you as a planning commission and are ultimately approved by city council. You can always deny a request to have the 20 feet front yard building setback if you so choose, or allow for a front yard setback and then require the development to provide additional off-street parking as well. That could be a scenario, depending on the development, you could evaluate as well.
So the area you're talking about, it was a planned development?
No, it's not. I just looked. It's regular R2.
It's R2.
So
So they're
the developer built to our code.
To the minimum, yeah.
25 back, and then they're moving, that's 10.
And it probably is minimum, but it's,
Right, so where do you enforce it? Do you enforce it now when you ask them to build a building, they do it right, so you can actually park in your driveway and not block the sidewalk? Or do you ask our service units to go out there and write tickets to all the people blocking the sidewalk?
Take your pick. No, it's just an observation. I think, well, philosophically, I believe garages are taking over our lives, and to push them someplace where they're not quite as obvious would be delightful.
Like
And
in
we
alleys.
aren't,
Like in alleys.
Yeah.
and with our request, we aren't asking to amend any of the minimum yard setbacks, so we didn't evaluate with that with this request.
Is that something you want staff to look at?
Oh, they're aware of it. Anything else? Any other questions, comments, concerns? I am going to close the hearing. Do we have each one of those,
Can you group them?
or can we put them together?
Each one, because they're separate hearings. They're public
They
hearings.
certainly are, aren't they? Okay, well, I'm going to,
Mr. Chairman, I did not read my staff's finding of fact for the
Oh.
3. Would you like me to present those as
please
well?
do, we're waiting for it.
Okay, sorry, I wasn't. From time to time, city staff should review and provide recommended updates to the ULD to align with development needs within our community. The proposed amendments to chapters 20, 21, and 22 regarding site development regulars for minimum lot area and minimum site area per housing unit reflect the intended densities for the respective zoning districts more accurately. The proposed revisions to the notes provide clarification for additional requirements and consistency across all 3 of the respective chapters 20, 21, 22, facilitating the ease of use of our ULDO. The proposed code amendments provide simplicity for developers to better understand the requirements of the ULDO and ease housing development within the city of Kearney. The proposed amendments are consistent with the 2016 comprehensive plans policies as referenced, and staff recommends approval of the code amendments to chapter 20, section 20-102, chapter 21, section 21-102, and chapter 22, section 22-102, all as presented.
Thank you. Anything additional? I'm going to close the hearing and ask for a motion in regards to item number 14, which is hearing, that's a code amendment number 2022-04. This is proposed amendment section 2102 site development regulations for District R2, Urban Residential Mixed Density District.
Mr. Chairman, I move that, we doing this in two, let's see, this is.
We're going to do number 14 first.
Number 14. Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve code amendment, item number 14, code amendment 2022-04, based on the staff's finding of fact.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any additional discussion? Malia?
Rickard,
Aye.
Yaw,
Aye.
McGinnis,
Aye.
Dart,
In principle, no.
Malone,
Aye.
Dakin,
Aye.
Pandor.
Aye.
That motion passes. The next item is on our agenda, item number 15, and this is Code Amendment 2205, and this deals with the proposed amendment to Section 21102, Site Development Regulations for that portion of the code, Chapter 21, District R3, Urban Residential Multifamily District Medium Density. Is there a going to close the hearing on that and ask for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve code amendment number 2022-05, based on the city's finding of fact.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any additional discussion? Malia?
Yaw,
Aye.
McGinnis,
Aye.
Dart,
Aye.
Malone,
Aye.
Dakin,
Aye.
Pandor,
Aye.
Rickard.
Aye.
That motion carries. The next item is Code Amendment 22-2206, Amendment to Section 22102, Site Development Regulations for Chapter 22, District R4, Urban Residential Multifamily District. I'm going to close the hearing on that and ask for a motion in regards to number 16.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve item number 16, hearing, code amendment number 2022-06 based on the city's finding of fact.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there additional discussion, comment? Malia?
McGinnis,
Aye.
Dart,
Aye.
Malone,
Aye.
Dakin,
Aye.
Pandor,
Aye.
Rickard,
Aye.
Yaw.
Aye.
Motion carries. We move on now to item number 17 that we have been waiting for with bated breath. This is the presentation of the 22-23 capital expenditures for the city of Kearney that we are required essentially by statute to consider, and it's always a fun thing to do.
I know it says Wendell, but we have the pleasure of having Kayla James. She will be taking over for Wendell at first of the year.
Yep.
First of the year as our new finance director. She comes from us from the education sector and has been shadowing Wendell for about 6 months now. 5? Oh, don't make it any longer than it is, right? So she will present that to us then.
Welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, I will be presenting the proposed budget for the capital expenditures for fiscal 22-23, and I believe that you have a list of recap in the packet. First of all, we'll start with the street improvement fund. We have set aside $500,000 to put in miscellaneous paving districts. Of course, right now we don't know what those are yet. We also plan to pay for the 30th Avenue overpass. It's just a maintenance project, and we've set aside $200,000 for that. In the special sales tax fund, we are setting aside $360,000 for asphalt street replacement projects. Again, we don't know what those are. They're in various locations. $630,000 for the 30th Street Avenues E through I, remove and replacement on that project. $250,000 for the 56th Street and 11th Avenue traffic signal. It's near Sterling Mead Lumber. It's a growth area, so they felt that a traffic signal would be beneficial in that area. $625,000 for Avenue A, 31st Street to 35th Street, remove and replacement. Sanitary sewer projects paid for through the retained revenues. Miscellaneous sewer districts, $500,000 set aside for that. The wastewater treatment plant, phase 2, this project it's a $38 million project, $38,655,000, and we anticipate to spend $26 million of that during 22-23. It's a pretty big project. It's for improvement, repair, rehab of the city sewer system. And then out of the water retained revenues fund, we've set aside $400,000 for miscellaneous water districts. We are planning on replacing booster pumps 1 and 2, or upgrading them, excuse me. That's a $1.1 million project. We plan on completing that during the next fiscal year. And then we've set aside $4,073,000 for the Kearney water tower that's up on Avenue N. That project's total cost is $5.3 million, and we'll spend about $4 million next year. So can I answer any questions about any of those projects?
Do these dollar amounts take into account the inflationary environment we currently are in?
Yes, funny you should say that. The wastewater treatment plant, originally, I think the budget was $28 million, and because of the supply chain issues, we're up to $38 million. And we pushed through a bond so that we wouldn't have to get in compliance with Build Back Better, which would shoot up the prices. So, yes, that is a factor here.
Are you finding contractors, and then particularly the street projects with, I don't know what's going to happen with Blessing Construction. I don't know that that's our purview, but there's a contractor that did an awful lot of work around here. Are you finding people?
We are
that
feeling
do
that, but we do have other contractors. Yes.
Competitive?
Yes.
The wastewater treatment plant, when school's in session, when UNK's in session, we're running 80% or 85% of capacity out there. No chance that's not gonna happen, is there? I mean, that's. looks
Probably
like
not.
it's gotta happen.
And they're also considering the new development down in Talmadge and new hotels down there. That's going to put an increased load on this current system. And it sounds like through meetings that we've had that putting off this upgrade is really not a very good option. It's better to do it now because the prices, we don't know, and they're likely to be higher yet.
Are there cost shares, are there government programs that contribute to these that are notable? Or are we doing this basically on our own
The
dime?
wastewater treatment project is, we're doing through an SRF bond, or SRF loan, with NDEE. That's a loan. The street projects are coming out of the special sales tax fund. Those are our funds. And the water tower, I can't remember. I can't speak to that.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? I gotta check to make sure this isn't a
Okay.
hearing, is it?
Thank you.
It is not a hearing,
It is not a
however, correct. They do need, if there are no comments and you find what has been presented acceptable, that they request that that you vote, that you recommend the suggested expenditures for approval.
Any additional questions, comments, concerns? Okay, I will take a motion in regards to the presentation and the information provided to us by the capital expenditures presentation.
Mr. Chairman, I elect that we approve the 2022-2023 budget that we just approved, or reviewed.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Additional discussion. Malia?
Dart,
Aye.
Malone,
Aye.
Dakin,
Aye.
Pandor,
Aye.
Rickard,
Aye.
Yaw,
Aye.
McGinnis.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any additional items, any reports, further discussion? Motion to adjourn would be in order.
So moved.
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Sure, you do it.